biggest downside of the evolution of post-independence Africa, according to some economic analysts, is the evident failure of the emergent states to actually utilize their basic resources to industrialize. It's been over 60 years since the nationalist awakening swept through the entire continent, but even up to the moment, African countries like Nigeria are still stuck on exporting much of their raw materials to be developed in the West in exchange for imported finished products that we actually use here. Critically, awareness of the advantages of local processing of raw resources remains abysmally low. How can this change? And who between Africa's public and private sectors are really meant to take the lead on this critical issue? Doyle Edeni is the managing director of Blue Seal Energy Group, and he joins us now to discuss how private individuals and the public sector can shape the future of industrialization in Africa and also grow the continent's economy. So thank you for joining us. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Great to be here again.
Great. Awesome. Great to have you. So, when we talk about the future of industrialization, it feels like this is something that really just goes hand in hand with infrastructure, right? But if we think of Nigeria as a country, this is a place where, what's the number? About 30% of the country actually has paved roads. Without roads, how are we meant to do anything? Without constant electricity, how are we meant to do anything? So doesn't infrastructure go hand in hand with industrialization?
It sure does. And that's why we're here. I think Africa's story is going to be changed by Africans believing in investment inside of Africa. For those of us who have been in diaspora for some time, our factory is originally based in Lulig in Texas, and we've been importing chemicals over to Nigeria for a number of years, and then we had to have a mind shift that if we are going to continue like that, it will be increasingly dependent on other climes. So we are creating local capacity. So the first plant we built here this year is able to produce now locally about 1.7 million liters of drilling fluids, production chemicals to serve the oil industry. After that, we'll be going downstream. The full capacity when fully built at Ibejuleki here will be about 5 million liters. Just last week, the Delta State government, for example, talking about infrastructure, they've been building a lot of infrastructure, roads, and so on and so forth. Even when the governor gave his speech in opening the free trade zone, where we are going to be siting our second plant, that will be about 4 times what we have in Lagos, because that is the hub of the oil sector in Nigeria, using resources, underdeveloped resources like you highlighted in your opening remark, like gas, for example. We could use coal to be able to build a critical raw material that is used across several industries called like urea formaldehyde concentrate. That UFC 85, Nigeria spends over $200 million right now in importing it. Now, if we could be able to build plants there, for you to be able to manufacture that product, you need to build several infrastructure, a power plant, because it's exothermic. You are able to use the process to generate energy. We need just about 20% of that energy. The rest will be available to serve the community and other companies that will be building around that zone. Beyond that, we'll build a formaldehyde plant and a methanol plant. Those are used in the oil industry and other critical sectors as well. So what we are doing are targeted developments that are going to target the oil and gas industry, which is the mainstay of our economy. Also agriculture, because we need to be able to provide food for ourselves. We should not be importing. Nigeria has no business importing food from other countries because we have arable land. We have our plants can grow all seasons. It's just we need to create give to the farmer, the local farmer, the ability for them to be able to grow their crops and be able to have yields that are not only subsistence at that level, but also to be able to sell it to the market and be able to make gains from it. So what we're doing is to help create critical industrial chemical raw materials so that all these factories that are closing down and leading to people being laid off, it will not happen anymore. We're not going to be able to solve the problem alone. So we have taken the model of collaborating with others as well, taking the case to them that, see, we can make it happen here. Instead of taking all the resources you have abroad to develop those economies, why don't we invest locally? And then that state, for example, Delta State, they've created some infrastructure. Even the governor himself said in his speech that it is not enough anymore for you to be building roads and bridges and all those housing, that you need to create an economic climate where you are going to generate income and be able to take these 600,000 students that are graduated annually from our university, and it's staggering and very scary that you have people that are bright, willing to work, but they don't have an industry where to express themselves. So if you come to our factory here, for example, in Lagos, we have built campuses where we are going to be, from January, we're going to be onboarding a lot of students, the brightest of our chemical engineers, industrial chemists, and biochemists, and all of them, to be able to teach them what it means to be able to produce. Some of them have genius ideas, but they lack a place for expression. So what we call it, I've said it in your studio before, is Pan-African capitalism. We're not a socialist company. Mm-hmm. We're from the core of capitalism, but we want to do it in such a way that the age-old Mbutu spirit, because you are, I am, is what we think is needed in order for us to work a model that fits our climate.
Fantastic. I'm told we have about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So let's and you've said so much that it is insightful in terms of your targeted developments and how you're looking at agriculture and also trying to empower farmers. That's fantastic. But I'd like you to talk about the challenges that you're facing at the moment, especially when we have policies that change more or less with every administration. How are you navigating that aspect?
Okay. The policy, first of all, for you to be able to produce, I'll quote Mr. Aliko Dangote himself. He said in his own words that for people, small players like this to be able to enter the industry, you need to create access to capital. Now, if you put all these hurdles and they are claiming that their banks are borrowing money from big corporations at high cost, and then we're going to remain the same way. Where I come from, for example, where we are producing in the US, it cost us a single digit to be able to access loan. The SBA will make sure you get loan if you need to produce, because it will increase the GDP of the US. Here in Nigeria, it's almost as if they are against production. We can't remain as a consuming nation. You can't give people loans at 33% and expect them to make a profit against people that their home government has subsidized, especially some of the Asian countries where the government is almost like in the business, you understand? So we need to start thinking about how we need to create local capacity. We can't have banks all over the country declaring trillions of profits off the back of industries that are dying, and you say you can't do something about it. We need leadership. Informed leadership and strategic, that you are going to say, no, enough is enough. Because all of us have to invest. We can't be taking our resources out and what are you declaring the profit on? How many factories are running? Why are the factories shutting down? These are valid questions as leaders we need to ask ourselves. And then again, the way we position, the optics matters. Sometimes you see some leaders in our traditional African culture, leaders are supposed to be informing us to follow their footsteps. We can't have government agents and policymakers fighting over jostling for power at the expense of what? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, people need to make up their mind about this country. Some of us who are younger, we are keen in, and some people keep asking us, what are you looking for in that continent? We're born here. There's a reason why we came from here. And then even the US government, for example, now in February, will be launching our company that's a brand that they think is truly Nigerian and that coming back home to bring US technology and resources. We have some Canadians and other groups that are coming with us to invest. If we start making a national shame of ourselves, the way we conduct ourselves, or you allow people to just go into classroom, pick up people anyhow, or allow people to carry guns, shooting people all around the places, you're not helping this country. It doesn't favor any business region. We have imaginary enemies that we are all fighting that I don't understand. So what we need to do is to look at ourselves in the eye and say, enough is enough. We need to create opportunities. Why there's banditry and 419 and all those Yahoo is because there are no opportunities for youths. They can't be taking themselves across Libya and whatever. I don't know what they think, but we need to start making efforts to make sure that we change the trajectory. And we are doing it. We've suffered greatly in our place here, where they've cut our cables and whatever, but we replace them. And we'll keep replacing them until we rebuild Nigeria.
What a note to end on. Mr. Doyle Edeni, thank you very much for joining us on Newsday today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.